Right, so I've emptied out the folder, so we've got an empty folder here again. Let's start from scratch and we'll have a look at how Cucumber fits together. So first of all, in our Cucumber folder, let's create another package JSON file, package.json, so we can bring in all the stuff that we need. And we want a dev dependency. Just start the JSON off there. So we want a dev dependency of Cucumber. So that's cucumber / cucumber. And we want version. So there's a specific version. So I'm not going to go latest with this one because I know there's a couple of things it doesn't do that. It doesn't quite play ball with WebStorm with the latest version. So I've just got to figure out why that is. So in the interim, I'm using a specific version 960 because I know that that does work. And we also want a script in here as well. And we're going to call that script test. And we're going to put in there cucumber-js to run our cucumber.js. And then let's do an npm install, which I'll just do by right-clicking that, clicking on run npm install. And what have I done wrong? Oh, there you go. I've misspelled cucumber. That would do it, wouldn't it? Cucumber. Right, let's run that again. Oh, look, there you go. It's come up with the little button in the corner for me. There we go. Cucumber's now installing. And what we can do now is if I go to the terminal, now we've got all of our libraries installed. If I do npm test from there, there we go. That has tried to run our Cucumber framework. There's obviously not much for it to run yet. There's no scenarios and no steps. So as a result of that, it's not run anything. So let's rectify that by creating a new folder to put our first feature file in. So we'll do new directory features. So we've got a features folder. We'll create a file in here and we'll just call it, you can call it whatever you want as long as it ends in .feature. So you could call that, I don't know, login, homepage, whatever you were going to use that to describe the test that we're going to sit within that feature file. So but as a starter for 10, we'll just call it test.feature. And a feature file is made up of a feature title or description. So we'll call that something, let's call it testing 1, 2, 3. And within the feature file, you have scenarios. So we'll call our first scenario adding some numbers together. And this is written in a format, each scenario is written in a format called, people call it different things. Some people describe it as BDD, some people call it, I don't know, just scenarios. I think the correct terminology for this is gherkin, the way that you're writing these tests now. And the way that you write them is in this given when then format. So the given in one of these scenarios is the situation that you want to be in to do the test. So it might be something like if you were looking at checking something was on a home page, for example, it might be given I'm on the home page. When is the action? So that might be you're clicking on a button or logging in. And then the then is your assertion. So that's the thing that you want to check is correct at the end of doing your test. So for this example, we'll just say, given I have a number, when I add a number, then I get the correct total. There we go. So that's our test. Given I have a number, when I add a number, then I get a correct total. And we can run that again, but from the command line. So I do npm test there, run this again. There we go. So this time it's found the scenario. So it goes, you've got a scenario, you've got 3 steps in it, but it's all undefined. But what it has done, which is very useful, is it's generated the code that we need to sit behind each of these steps. So let's, within that feature folder, create a new folder, and we'll call that one step definitions. And in there we'll put a file, and we'll call it test underscore steps. So that way it will correspond just from a naming point of view, not a technical point of view. I think you can pretty much call these within reason. I think you can call these almost what you want, these files, and put them where you want. It's just, it uses this, it's almost a little bit black box. It all knows about itself. So if I put this piece of code in here, we can't put it in just yet. Let's import the libraries first. So let's require cucumber, and we want specifically the specific modules that we want from that are we want given, when, then. So we want given, when, and then. And we also want a way to assert our test as well. So we'll just do assert equals require. I think we can just do assert. Cool. So that's everything that we should need now to create a step definition file. So we can get this bit of code that Cucumber generated for us and pop that in there. So we've got a given that will correspond with our given. We've got a when and a then. Let's grab both of those. I'm not sure why that hasn't put a closing bracket on there, so let's just put that on the end of. There we go. Right. So there we go. So we've got a step definition file now. So what if we run this again? I'm going to run it this time using this little play button. WebStorm gives you these little play buttons next to your test, which is super handy if you just want to run one of those tests. There we go. So you can see now it's executed that code. The first one's pending, so it's gone to that first one. It says it's pending, so it hasn't bothered running the next two steps. So what we'll do is we will click into that. Whatever code I put in here will run. So if I put, just as an example, console.log I am here and run this again, you can see that it's put I am here. Whatever code I put in here, it's going to run. So first thing we want is a number. So let's say we've got a variable scope thing here as well, which is called this. So this is a way of making sure that all these other step definitions know about the variable that I'm creating here. So I put this.num equals 5. I can then use that here. So if I put total, this dot total equals, and we'll put this dot num plus 1. So there we go. So we've got a number 5, and in this one we've added 1 to it. And in this last one here, we're going to put an assert. I'm just going to show you how an assert works real quick before I start using it in anger. You basically pass two things into an assertion. You pass in a boolean, or something that's going to result in a boolean, and you can also put a message in there. So if I put in there whatever, and if we run this again, it'll run those first two steps. It's running a bit of code here. It's saying setting num to 5. It's setting the total to this.num plus 1. And then it's asserting. At the moment, it's just asserting it to true. And you're not seeing that message, that whatever message, because it's not failing. But if it fails, if I put a false in there, you can see now it should say it's put whatever. You can put something more descriptive, because I passed in false. If I run that again, because I passed in false, and we could put something in there that results in a true or false. If I put assert that 1 is equal to 1, that passes. If I put 1 is equal to 2, it fails, and it spits out my message. So we want to make sure that this, we know that 5 plus 1 is equal to 6. So let's put in there this dot total. We're hoping that at the end of this test it's going to equal 6, and if it doesn't, we want to know what's going on. So we'll put in here expected 6 but got, and then we'll just output that variable there. So we'll put this dot total. Right, and let's run that again. There you go, it's all passed, everything's gone as it should have. But if I change that to, we were expecting a 7, and put that there, we're expecting a 7, run it again. There we go, I expected a 7, but I got a 6. So change it back to 6 again, and it's passing. Another cool thing you can do with this is you can parameterize these. So what we'll do here is, if I put, instead of putting I have a number, let's put I have a number 5. And then if we run this again, it will churn out the code for us to, there we go. It automatically knows, because I've used a number there rather than a complete string. It's kind of making an assumption that I could potentially want to change that or parameterize it with the same step def. So if I run this here, where are we? So we want, we'll replace this top one here. So we've now got this, we've got this integer here that's been passed in. So just to show you that happening, if I put console.log, starting with number, and let's just output that number so we can see what it's doing. If I run this again, you can see it says here somewhere, hopefully. There you go, starting with number 5. If I change that in the step def to be 7, it says starting with number 7. Let's change this one now as well to when I add the number 2. We'll run that to get the step def code. So we'll replace that with that. Get rid of these comments for floating numbers. We're just using integers at the moment. And then we'll write our code again for adding the two numbers together, but we'll use the number that we've passed in there. So let's grab this one here, because this step definition here won't know about that int in here. So let's put this dot num equals int. And then down here, we'll add whatever int we've got there. So we'll put this dot total is equal to this dot num plus int. And we'll put out a line of code in there as well, just so that we know what's going on. Console.log. Let's put total. And we've got a total of this dot total. And let's run this again. And hopefully, there we go, starting with 7, and the total is 9 because we're adding. Do you know what? I should actually put what we're adding here as well. Console.log adding int. There we go. Starting with 7, we're adding 2, and we're getting a total of 9. So now let's assert that at the end here. So we'll say, let's parameterize this as well. Then I get a total of 9. And we'll run that again. Get our code. Replace that step def with that. And we'll put in here an assertion that says we want this dot total to be equal to whatever number we've passed in this step definition. So we want it to be equal to that int. And we want to output a message as well. So we'll just say expected int, so whatever we passed in there, but got, and we'll say this dot total. There we go. So hopefully if we now run this again, we get a massive failure. Why have we got that? Assignment constant variable. What have I done wrong? This dot total expected in, but got this dot total. What have I done wrong this time? Is that my string concatenation? Tell you what, I'll debug this on here in the video because it's also always useful to know this stuff, isn't it? Where have I gone wrong? So what I would do here is comment out those 2 lines, run that. First step's not working. It's because assignment of to constant variable. What have we got? Assert. Oh, if I imported assert incorrectly. Don't think so. Oh, it's a oh, okay, right. All right, got you. There we go. That should be a constant, right? Whoa, did I type that in twice? Let me do this again. Right, there we go. We're back in the game. I know what I'm doing. There we go. Cool. Right. Given I have a number 7, when I add the number 2, I get a total of 9. When I change that to 10, it stops. If I change that to 5 and 5, it passes. This is really useful. This makes testing like with Cucumber. This is the great thing about it. That is now, these are now reusable steps. If I put in here, given I adding 5 and 5 makes 10, for example, and then that was my test. If I wanted to add another test now, what have I done wrong? There we go. Right. So, oh, I know why that was, because I'd changed the title and then I clicked the play button and then it tried to reference this again and that had changed. So me running that, clicking that button was trying to rerun a test that no longer existed because I've changed the name. Right, adding 5 and 5 makes 10. If I wanted to create another test, I could just, those steps are all completely reusable. So I could say adding 4 and 4 makes 8. Then I could change that to 4 and 4 and 8 and then run that test. There we go. So that there's a lot of applications for that. If you're entering text into a text field for various tests or sending different data to an endpoint, that is super handy. And here is another way of doing that. You can also create something called a scenario outline. So if I change that to outline, this is another way of doing one of these, which is quite handy. You can basically parameterize these and then pass those variables in using an examples table. So if I put in here, instead of the number 5, I put in num1, and then down here in the examples table I put in num1. Then if we run this, oh, because I haven't got a value in there, let's put in 5. There we go. Now if I run this again, there we go. So we could now parameterize all of these. So I put in here num2, and I call that 1 total, num2 total 5 and 10. There we go. We run this now. There we go. It's now, we could run this now. However many rows we put in here, for each row that we've got in this table, it will rerun that same test. So if I put in there 2, 2, 4, and I put in here 3, 1, 4. That will now run that test. This will now run 3 times in a row, and each time it runs, it will populate these steps with these numbers. There we go. So it's run it 3 times there. You can see checking with all the different values in those rows. So if I change one of those to fail, so I put that one to 5, run it again. There you go. You can see that 5 and 5 makes 10. It's because it's got the same time. I should call that. Can you use it? I'm sure you can actually parameterize it to use those in the top bit as well. So if I put num1, num2 total. Let's run that again. Okay, let's run the whole thing. There we go. 5 and 5 makes 10. 2 and 2 makes 5. Doesn't work. 3 and 1 makes 4. So there we go. We can see we've got one test there that's failed. If you double click on that, it takes you straight to the erroneous row there. So you can see what's gone wrong. So basically 2 and 2 doesn't make 5. It's 4. And run that again. That, in a nutshell, is Cucumber. That's basically how you use it. There's lots of other cool things that it can do, but those are the main things that you're going to do with it. Next up, we'll put the two things together, so that after this we'll start adding web automation to Cucumber, make it do something a little bit more interesting.